NVIDIA CEO Jensen currently on his world podcast tour, the latest just dropped with Lex Friedman. And, of course, Elon Musk came up. XAI, now owned by SpaceX, came up. And so too, orbital data centers. If you're a Tesla investor and or potential SpaceX investor, this one is worth watching. First, the pace at which XAI were able to get their Colossus training computer up and running.
You've highly lauded Elon and XAI's accomplishment in Memphis in building Colossus supercomputer, probably in record time in just 4 months. It's now at 200,000 GPUs and growing very quickly. Is there something that you could speak to that you understand about his approach that's instructive broadly to all the data center creators that enable that kind of accomplishment? His approach to engineering, his approach to the whole management of construction, everything.
First of all, Elon is deep in so many different topics, yet he's also a really good systems thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's able to think through multiple disciplines. And he obviously pushes things, questions everything, whether number one, is it necessary? Number two, does it have to be done this way? And number, does it have to take this long?
Very well said from Jensen here. Deceptively simple, but incredibly compelling and very telling points. Musk's combination of a physics-based first principles way of looking at the world, plus a healthy dose of thetism. Does it have to be done this way? Usually, by the way, the answer to this question has been no. And does it have to take this long? The answer to that question also usually no. Recall Jensen publicly praised Musk and the XAI team for getting up the Colossus AI training supercomputer in world record time, not only saying that it was incredible how fast they'd pulled it off, but also explicitly saying that he didn't believe anyone else could have done it that fast. And at the time, most of these so-called experts did not believe it was possible to coherently run even close to that number of GPUs. In other words, the experts, when they asked, can it be done a different way, said, no, the upper limit is X. And Elon said, is it really? Turns out it's not. And does it have to be this slow? The experts said, yeah, well, usually it takes us forever to build something like this. Whereas the XAI team demonstrated, actually, we can do it fuckloads quicker and embarrass everybody in the space.
So he has the ability to question everything to the point where everything is down to its minimal amount that's necessary. No, you can't take anything else out, and yet the necessary capabilities of the product retains. And so he is as minimalist as you could possibly imagine, and he does it at a system scale. I also love the fact that he is represented. He is present at the point of action.
Mm-hmm.
He'll just go there. If there's a problem, he'll just go there and show me the problem. When you do all of this in combination, you overcome a lot of previous, this is just the way we do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for them. It's just everybody has a lot of excuses. And then the last thing is when you act personally with so much urgency, it causes everybody else to act with urgency. And every supplier has a lot of customers going on. Every supplier has a lot of projects going on, and he makes it his business that he's the top priority of everybody else's projects, and so he does that by demonstrating it.
Yeah, I've been in a bunch of those meetings. It's fun to watch because really not enough people ask the question like, okay, so can this be done a lot faster, and how? Why does it have to take this long?
Yeah, right.
And then that becomes an engineering question often.
And also, you definitely don't want to say, oh, no, we can't do it any faster, or no, that we can't actually do it this way to Elon Musk for him to then respond, are you fucking sure? In other words, you better have a good reason why it can't be done better or faster. Otherwise, you've got a big problem. Musk has zero tolerance for bullshit, and you better be prepared to back up your statements, your claims, your timelines, your procedures, and your costs.
And yes, I think when you get the ground truth of actually, I remember one of the times I was hanging out with him, he literally is going through the entire process of how to plug in cables into a rack. He was working with an engineer on the ground that's doing that task, and he's just trying to understand what does that process look like so it can be less error prone. And just building up that intuition from every single task involved in putting together the data center,
Mm-hmm.
you start to immediately get a sense at the detailed scale and at the broad system scale of where the inefficiencies are. And so you can make it more and more and more efficient. Plus, you have the big hammer of being able to say, let's do it totally different
Yeah,
and
that's
remove
right.
all possible blockers.
That's right.
Is there parallels in the NVIDIA Extreme Systems co-design approach that you see in the way Elon approaches systems engineering?
Well, first of all, co-design is a ultimate systems engineering problem.
Yeah.
And so we approach the work that we do from that principle. The other thing that we do, and this is a philosophy that a thought, a, 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 a state of mind, I guess, a method that I started 30 years ago, and it's called the speed of light. The speed of light is not just about the speed. Speed of light is my shorthand for what's the limit of what physics can do. And so everything that we do is compared against the speed of light.
Now, isn't this interesting? Jensen Huang, CEO, founder, leader of NVIDIA, give or take $4.5 trillion market cap, most valuable company in the world, as I record this, also with a physics-based way of thinking about the world, about problems, about technology. How interesting.
Speed, math speed, power, cost, time, effort, number of people, manufacturing cycle time. And when you think about latency versus throughput, when you think about cost versus throughput, cost versus capacity, all of these things, you test against the speed of light to achieve all of these different constraints separately. And then when you consider it together, you have to make compromises, because a system that achieves extremely low latency versus a system that achieves very high throughput are architected fundamentally differently. But you want to know what's the speed of light of a system that achieves high throughput, what's the speed of light of a system that achieves low latency. And then when you think about the total system, you could make trade-offs. And so I force everybody to think about what the first principles, the limits, the physical limits for everything before we do anything, and we test everything against that. And so that's a good frame of mind. I don't love the other methods, which is continuous improvement. The problem with continuous improvement, first of all, you should engineer something from first principles at the speed, with speed of light thinking, limited only by physical limits and physics limits. And after that, of course, you would improve it over time. But I don't like going into a problem and somebody says, hey, it takes 74 days to do this today, right now. And we can do it for you in 72 days. I'd rather strip it all back to zero and say, first of all, explain to me why it's 74 days in the first place. And let's think about what's possible today. And if I were to build it completely from scratch, how long would it take? Oftentimes you'd be surprised, and might come to 6 days. Now the rest of the 6 days to 74 could be very well reasoned, and compromises, and cost reductions, and all kinds of different things. But at least you know what they are. And then now that you know that 6 days is possible, then the conversation from 74 to 6, surprisingly much more effective.
Sounds very Musk-esque, doesn't he? Third and final subject, AI data centers in space. Something that many non-physics thinkers are claiming is impossible, won't work, it's ridiculous. Don't you understand? You can't do thermal management in space. Plus there's radiation, etc. Let's see what Jensen has to say about this apparently insane, impossible idea. Presumably this podcast, by the way, was recorded before Elon Musk's recent Terafab announcement, the collaboration between SpaceX, XAI and Tesla for that very thing. Initially, obviously there's going to be chip production, but SpaceX has plans to launch 1 million satellites into orbit for AI training and inference.
What do you think about the space angle that Elon has talked about, doing compute in space for solving it makes some of the energy issues in terms of scaling energy easier?
Cooling issues is not easy.
Cooling. Well, there's a large number of engineering complexities involved with that.
Yeah.
So what, NVIDIA has also announced that you're already thinking about that.
Yeah, we're already there. NVIDIA GPUs are the first GPUs in space. And I didn't realize it was so interesting I would have declared it maybe. We're in space, little astronaut suit on one of our GPUs. But we've been in space. It's the right place to do a lot of imaging. Because those satellites have really high resolution imaging systems, and they're sweeping the Earth continuously now, and you want centimeter scale imaging that is done continuously for the world, so that you'll basically have real time telemetry of everything. You don't want to beam that back down to Earth. It's just petabytes and petabytes of data. You got to just do AI right there at the edge. Throw away everything you don't need, you've seen before, didn't change, and then just keep the stuff that you need. And so AI ought to be done at the edge. Obviously, we have 24/7 solar if we put it at the polars, and but there's no conduction, no convection, and so you're pretty much just radiation. And but space is big. I guess we're just going to put big giant radiators out there.
How crazy of an idea do you think it is? Like, is this 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out? So we're talking about blockers for AI scaling.
I'm just so much more practical. I look for where my next bucket of opportunities are first. Meanwhile, I'm cultivating space, and so I send engineers to go work on the problem. We're learning a lot about it. How do we do with radiation? How do we do with degrading performance? How do we deal with continuous testing and attestation of defects, and how do we deal with redundancy, and how do we degrade gracefully and things like that? And so we could do what about software? How do you think about software and redundancy and performance out in space? Make it so that the computer never breaks; it just gets slower, And so we could start doing a lot of engineering exploration up front. But in the meantime, my favorite answer is eliminate waste. We've got all that idle power. I want to evacuate it as fast as possible.
There's a lot of low-hanging fruit here on Earth that we can utilize for the AI scaling.
I'm absolutely certain that this podcast was recorded before the Terafab announcement. I got a funny feeling that this might light a fire under Jensen and the team at NVIDIA. What he was getting at there is there's a lot of opportunities on Earth. We're starting to look into space-based AI, a lot of challenges there, so we are trying to solve some of those. Meanwhile, after this was recorded, Musk has just told the world about the absolutely astronomical plans with the Terafab project. Full speed, space-based AI, expecting roughly 80% of the chips that are manufactured to head to space. This also shows one of the true differences between Jensen and Musk. Musk's vision, long-term thinking, risk-taking on a whole other level. Just one final concluding thought. It's not possible to be somebody like Jensen Huang or Elon Musk and not be unbelievably borderline psychopathically competitive. You do not build a monstrous business accidentally. The Terafab project clearly outlines its intent to produce more chips than the rest of the world combined, including NVIDIA. Now, to be really, really, really clear, NVIDIA themselves don't actually make chips. They design them and then send the designs elsewhere to manufacture them. The Terafab project will literally be manufacturing, not just designing, but also manufacturing the chips fully vertically integrated. No doubt, Jensen has had many discussions with the team since this announcement and said, holy fuck, guys, what do we do? It's unlikely he'll be publicly saying anything even close to that, but privately, you got to know. Jensen's got to be thinking, damn, if the Terafab project succeeds, if they are the only fully vertically integrated chip fabrication, not just from design, but all the way through to manufacturing company that's also building the satellites, launching the satellites, has AI. Fuck, are we cooked? Shit. This is likely to result in a real battle of the titans. Imagine two of the most successful and competitive business leaders of all time competing directly with one another on astronomical projects. This is really going to be rocket fuel for innovation and growth for both companies. Grab your popcorn, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be good. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has been part of my daily health protocol for almost half a decade. It's packed full of vitamins and minerals and helps me fill in nutritional gaps while supporting energy, digestion, and immune function. It also has prebiotics and probiotics to promote gut health. I take my health very seriously, and so should you. Try AG1 today by visiting drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment and enjoy a free welcome kit with vitamin D3 plus K2 and AG1 travel packs. That's drinkag1.com/SMR.